The fundamental question and our briefing is going to be very simple. We're simply just saying what is the problem, what is the question, and what is the answer. Okay? Elections are supposed to be free and fair. Okay? We understand that elections are supposed to be free and fair. Now the question that we need to ask, has this election been free and fair? Okay, and what is our answer? But before the AR movement even before the AR movement even provide that answer, whether the election was free and fair, that question has been answered already by the ECN itself. Check their statement. They are saying the shortages of ballots and all the so-called technicalities and what did they call it, so-called human factors. In their own statement, when you read them, I think it's the second or the first statement that they released by the CEO, is saying that those factors disenfranchised the people in terms of exercising their constitutional rights. So whether the elections were free and fair, that question has already been answered by ECN itself. So in making a determination that the election was not free and fair by implication, what did they seek to do? They sought to remedy the fact that the elections were not free and fair. Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to be able to deal with. Was the election free and fair? The ECN has answered that question, that the election was not free and fair. Therefore, they undertook to do a remedy to solve that problem that caused major problems. Okay? Then that takes us to the second question. If the ECN made an intervention, because if no one was inconvenienced, if everything was okay, you wouldn't need to extend an election, isn't it? Why would you need to extend an election if there's nothing that has gone wrong? Now, if you have determined that something has gone wrong,
you're saying is that we made a determination that the elections have not been free and fair. Okay? So obviously, if the election has not been free and fair, the end results of an election that is not free and fair, the fate of something that has not been free and fair is clear. So maybe to be more clear, what is it that has happened? So the leadership of the AR movement firstly made that determination. It's a scientific process that we are following. And remember, the AR movement has always been very methodical. That's why you always hear people saying, no, you didn't release a manifesto. Say, but that's not how we operate. Oh, when is the rally going to be? That's not how we operate. Oh, when are you going to do what? No, that's not how we operate. We don't subscribe to the syllabus of how Swapo conducts its politics or how orthodox political parties. Because remember, we are a radical movement with a political party license. Okay? So what we did first is a scientific analysis. Remember, that's what we are talking about, those the determination, section 64(6) of the Electoral Act with regard to public holidays and the proclamation
declared a voting day. That day becomes a public holiday. That is why when the Mbuba declared the 27th of November as a public as a day when the election had to take place, he went to further declare that day as a public holiday. Now, when journalists were struggling and having a back and forth with the ECA, when they are saying that, is it a post? I think as Ronaldo was asking them, is it an extension or what was the question? Is it an extension or is it a continuation? That question so whether they extended or continued, effectively it means a Friday was a polling day, isn't it? Now, in terms of that section 64(6), it basically meant then that Friday ought to have been a public holiday in terms of section 64(6). That's why I wanted to read for you that specific provision. If somebody just go to that section.
Zanu PF will side with one faction of the ruling party and it will create a lot of chaos. You see already those factions that are there. So it's easier to enjoy these funny things at our country. We ought to say, all of us, whether you are Swapo, whether you are what, we ought to say that you can even have
ZANU PF people on Twitter, on Facebook and everywhere, who are saying, yeah, this is what is happening. The ZANU PF are the one who are celebrating. Ah, Netumbo is ahead. Swapo people, some of them are quiet. But it's ZANU PF that is celebrating. Why is ZANU PF celebrating? So after they printed the ballot, in exchange of that 2.11 million, what do they want in exchange? And we are warning those Swapo people. One day they would remember this warning. That it is fine to think that you have a strategy to rig the election. You think you have a strategy to use ZANU PF. And even the ECN. You can be there sitting as commissioner. You can be there sitting as CEO. But remember, you have given birth in this country. Remember, you have given birth. You have children in this country. One day you are going to be so old. You are going to be so old, you will not be able to do anything. You are going to be in your 70s. You are going to be in your 90s. And your country is just going to be such a mess. Because it's a seed that you have planted. ZANU PF is going to integrate themselves in our intelligence system. ZANU PF is going to integrate themselves in our civil society. ZANU PF is going to integrate themselves in our business sector. It's going to integrate themselves in all facets of society. And I can guarantee you this. When those factions continue to fight and Swapo loses power, ZANU PF will run to the nearest available political party. They will run to the nearest available political party. That is why, even in South Africa, ZANU PF began, when there was those xenophobic attacks, ZANU PF began supporting certain political parties in South Africa.